crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with host David Lamb and the attorneys of Hollis Wright.
Good evening and welcome into the attorneys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Got a really interesting conversation. If you have had a business dream, you've got a business, covering all of those topics tonight. And maybe you know somebody who has a dream and they're about to start a business. Some ground we're going to cover tonight. You're going to want to give them a call and tell them to tune in for sure. Now, some rules of engagement tonight. We'd love to have you be a part of the conversation. Attorneys from Hollis Wright are standing by live all throughout the show. So for the next half hour, the way to get in touch with them, 844-529-8255, or locally the number is 205-324-3600. Also throughout the program, the bottom of the screen, ways you can join our conversation as well. Leading our conversation, he's a managing partner of Hollis Wright, Josh Wright. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too. How you doing?
Doing very well. Now you guys are, I love the way you guys are always a part of the community and kind of always kind of involved in some way. Got a neat deal you all are doing to honor some incredible athletes, right?
Well, yeah, you know, we started last year really sponsoring and supporting AL.com and high school athletics. Okay. And it's broader than just football, but during the entire football season, high school football season, we are sponsoring the AL.com, what's called the Hollis Wright Player of the Week. And you can go to AL.com and you can vote for the Player of the Week that is in the viewing audience from various high schools each week. And then those folks that win will receive an award as the Scholar Athlete or just the Athlete of the Week. And so it's a great opportunity for us to give back to the community. It's something we believe passionately in. A lot of us at the firm have kids that are in the high school vintage, if you will, where we decided that would be a good effort to market ourselves a little bit, but also to give back to the community in a way that lots of people like Friday night football.
Absolutely.
So it'll be fun.
Good.
All right, so tonight's topic. We're going to be talking about forming a company, a business, why it's important to form that business on the front end so that if something goes wrong on the back end, you're protected. And this is one of those issues that is definitely not within the sweet spot of our firm, so we bring an expert on. And I'm super happy to have Kayla Graben on, who used to be Kayla Schoen. She used to be a clerk at our law firm a long time ago before she became a very established practicing lawyer. So not that long. And something unique about her is she just had a baby. Oh, and so we are so excited you're back to work and you're here to talk about it. So tell us a little bit about that. You just had the baby and...
Yes. And I apologize to the viewers in advance for my very hoarse voice. The baby's in daycare, so I have gotten the first bit of daycare germs. But yeah, so I had Price, my first son, my first child, 15 weeks ago. But now I'm back at work. And I have transitioned from my solo practice to Massey, Stotzer & Nichols, which is a full-service law firm in Trustville, Alabama, just about a mile from my new house, conveniently. So.
Well, it sounds like, you know, and I often think this is great. You know, we all have different things. I mean, I've got kids too, and we're juggling and managing family life and business. For you, especially the last, 15 to 20 weeks and during your pregnancy, that's tough to manage all that, to manage a thriving practice where you're super busy, but you're also trying to raise kids. That's tough, I know.
Yeah, I had a very successful solo practice. I loved it. There was a lot of things I loved about it, but my heart had been set on going back into a firm for a while, but I knew it needed to be the perfect fit for me for a lot of reasons. So during my maternity leave, I was able to sort of dissolve my solo practice, get in talks with Massey Stotzer, and basically just bug them until they hired me.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're a great hire, I know. All right, so talking about dissolving the private practice and then working your way into a firm, that's kind of what tonight's about.
Yeah.
Tell me this. Is this an area of the law that you've been passionate about for a while?
Yeah, and one of the things I really liked about Massey Stotzer & Nichols in particular is that they are a full-service law firm. Like you said, Hollis Wright is a very niche firm. If you need somebody for personal injury, you guys are where you need to go. We sort of have a broader range of attorneys, and so corporate law is an area that sort of touches a variety of aspects of law. And so I like that about the firm, and I like that about corporate law. It affects estate planning, divorces, obviously real estate, and just corporate law in general. So it touches on a lot of different aspects of the law.
Why is it important, Kayla, to properly set up your business structure on the front end so if something goes wrong on the back end, you're protected? I mean, that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, so the two primary reasons are going to be taxes and liability. So, when you decide to set up your business, you need to determine what type of structure where you're going to have. And you need to talk to like a reputable attorney who practices in that area, and also a reputable accountant who is an accountant for those type of businesses, because you want to protect yourself from paying too many taxes, and you want to protect yourself from liability for being sued or anything legal involved.
All right, so let's say someone's sitting on the couch right now watching this show, and they say, I've been wanting to start this business. How do they get started? What are your recommendations?
Okay, so normally I say, okay, I'm going to use a lawn care business as just like a metaphor throughout. If I want to have a lawn care business, go talk to other people who own lawn care businesses. Just ask them general questions about what their inventory is like, what their income is like, what the different months of the year are like, what different quarters bring in different income. And so you have sort of a personal idea of what you're expecting. Then, go talk to an attorney, go talk to an accountant. You'll need to decide on your business name. Make sure that you're not taking somebody else's business name. You can't do that. You'll need to get an employee identification number. You'll need to set up formation paperwork. And depending on what you've decided on, an LLC or a sole proprietorship or a partnership, you'll need to fill out different paperwork for that, and you'll need to do it properly.
And that decision of whether you're a partnership, you're a sole proprietorship, whether you're a corporation, an LLC, all that matters, doesn't it? I mean, ultimately, you really need to get some advice, because you could have some tremendous tax advantages and save tax money by forming the right structure.
Yeah, so perfect example, sole proprietorship. If you and I were in a business together, a lawn care business, we don't know how to do lawn care, we pay people to do that. But if we had that, if we were a sole proprietorship, we wouldn't pay taxes on our net income individually. Our business would not pay taxes. But if we had an LLC, the business would pay taxes, and then you and I would also pay our personal income on what we receive throughout the year. And so there's different tax advantages or disadvantages. And so those are things you really need to talk to an attorney and an accountant about.
Yeah, and there are, for example, David, certain types of structures where you can take distributions during the year where you are not paying tax on that money because it is allowed to take a distribution, yet when you're taking income, ordinary income, you do pay tax on it. So a lot of times it's just setting the entity up where you go to a lawyer on the front and you say, hey, what is best for me? And they're going to ask you a bunch of questions about your business. Make sure that you form the right entity to protect you and to make sure that you're successful.
Time for us to take our first break of the evening. Let's step aside. As we do so, just a reminder at the bottom of the screen how you can get in touch with us. Stay tuned. More of The Attorneys coming right up.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm. Thank you for watching The Attorneys. Now, we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple. Provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury-related topics, you can call, email, or text us. Or you can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or simply contact us by going to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us link. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us watching The Attorneys.
Hollis Wright is a proud sponsor of high school athletics.
Contact the winning team of attorneys at Hollis Wright if you need help after an accident.
Our law firm proudly supports Alabama high school athletics as well as the AL.com Hollis Wright Player of the Week. Be sure to go vote this week for your favorite player at the Hollis Wright AL.com fan poll.
Welcome back in to the attorneys. Before we get back to our conversation tonight, reminder how you can get in touch with the attorneys from Hollis Wright. They're standing by live, free, confidential, and all-fair conversation is yours. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call them at 844-529-8255 or 205-324-3600. You can call, text, email, whatever is more convenient for you. Now, continuing our conversation here all about forming your business. A question we've got here, and we love getting these questions, should I incorporate my business entity or assets in my estate plan, and if so, why?
My absolute answer is yes. So one of the most common occurrences is family-run businesses. If you want to continue your business on after you pass away and your family is currently involved or you want them to be involved, whether it's your spouse or children, it's a really good idea to incorporate that into your estate plan and talk to your estate planning attorney, and we have those at Massey Stotzer, because you'll want to decide what type of assets are going to go to what heirs. How is the business going to be run after you pass? Do you want to just liquidate it and have all the heirs divide up the assets? Do you want it to continue running? In what capacity? What often happens is someone passes away unexpectedly and the heirs sort of squabble over, well, Dad wanted me to run the business. No, he wanted me to do the sales, this, that, and the other. So to plan for that ahead of time can save yourself a lot of time and headache, money, including those of your family members.
Another issue that I know comes up a lot is when a marriage happens, when someone's running a family-run business and then there's marriage, you need advice on whether or not that new spouse will have access to the profits of that business down the road if there's a divorce. Those are things that can be advised on too, are they not?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have two phenomenal attorneys at Massey Stotzer, Ann Durward and Randy Nichols, and I could list their accolades, but it would take the rest of the show. They do a lot of domestic relations type work, including prenups and postnuptial agreements and divorces. So what often happens is, one of my most, relatable examples is Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Yeah. He and his wife got married in 1993 when Amazon was not even founded. By the time they got divorced, it was worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And so in their divorce, she walked away with a large portion of that. You may start a business worth a few $1,000s and not anticipate that 20 years down the road, you unfortunately may get divorced and your business may be worth a lot more. And in that case, your spouse may be worth half of it. Yeah. And so thinking about those kind of things and planning for those type of things is very important, like you said, on the front end.
What happens if we go back to our lawn care business, and you have, this is just an example, but you've got a bunch of customers and customers stop paying you or they owe you and there's a collection related issue. What's the best approach there? I mean, do you get to litigation? Do you hire a third party? How do you handle that? And
the reason I chose a lawn care business is because that happens a lot. I have a friend whose husband owns a lawn care business, and what happens is lawn care business, you call them, you say, hey, I need my yard trimmed, this, that, and the other. They come, they do it. You're supposed to pay them then. Well, what if you bill them and then you never get paid? Yeah. And then it's fine if one or two people do that, but if 50 people do that to the tune of $200 a piece, you're out for a lot of money. Right. So the difference between a collections agency and a lawyer is a collections agency cannot sue someone for the balance owed. They can send letters, they can file a credit report, they can call you over and over again, but we all know plenty of people who just throw those letters away or just ignore that phone call and say, you know what, my credit's ruined anyway, so who cares? Right. Sometimes the best way to get fire going under somebody is to file a suit. So it's really a personal choice. But I feel like you can get a lot more going with a collections attorney versus a collections agency.
What happens if you run a business, regardless of the structure, and you get sued? That's kind of a critical issue. I mean, whether there's appropriate service, whether it was done correctly, is really kind of based on what corporate structure you are.
Right. So in the state of Alabama, you cannot bring a lawsuit or defend a lawsuit as a business without a licensed practicing attorney. So it doesn't matter.
Say that again, because that's really important.
Okay. If you are a business in Alabama, no matter what kind of business, you cannot bring a lawsuit or defend one unless you are represented by a licensed practicing attorney. So it doesn't matter if I own a business and I am an MBA, a CPA, a dentist, whatever. If I am not a licensed practicing attorney, I cannot file anything related to that lawsuit.
Yeah. And that is something we deal with a lot. And folks want to try and represent themselves because they're a small mom and pop entity. But the reality is that they've got to get counsel involved. And a lot of times what you find, David, is when lawyers on the plaintiff side and there's a lawyer on the defense side get together, there is a way to find reasonable approaches to the litigation, to save costs and expenses for companies and for individuals, and to make sure that the resolution is as efficient as possible. When you're dealing on the plaintiff side with an entity that's trying to represent themselves, it overcomplicates things, and trying to explain what I made Kayla just explain twice is tough sometimes. So there's no question that that's an important component to it, and to make sure that you properly are represented.
Question we've got here: I own a business and I just got served with a formal complaint. What do I do now?
Right. So again, you need to hire, if you don't already have one on retainer, a licensed practicing attorney to either respond to the suit, or in that case, I guess it would be respond to the suit. And do so quickly, okay? You need to be involved in the litigation. If it's in district court, you have a very small window of time, 14 days to respond. If it's in circuit court, if it's higher damages, you have about 30 days. Okay. But if you do not respond through a licensed practicing attorney as a business, you can get a default judgment against you, which means you didn't respond, you didn't participate, so there's just a judgment against you. Now you got to do a lot of work to try to reverse that, if at all possible.
One of the things we're going to talk about when we come back is whether or not you can purchase real estate through a business entity, and also whether or not you need an operating agreement between partners, for example, to make sure that you've got some structure in place as to what the focus of the company is going to be and what the responsibility of the various partners are.
All right, we're stepping aside. This is our final break of the evening. As we do so, Hollis Wright does an incredible job on social media of educating and informing you of kind of what's going on. It's a great legal conversation and a great legal resource. Just search Hollis Wright. You'll find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. They're just everywhere, so you just have to search that term to find it. Again, Hollis Wright, you'll want to keep up with what they're doing on social media. Really helpful there as well. Stay tuned. Our final segment of The Attorney is coming right up. Stay with us.
I'm attorney Carter Clay with Hollis Wright Law Firm. If you've ever been involved in a civil lawsuit or been a witness to an accident, then you may have been asked to give deposition testimony. In this week's Legal 411, we are answering the question, what is a deposition and why am I being asked to give one? Depositions involve the process of a person giving under oath testimony that is outside of court. The person giving deposition testimony is referred to as the deponent. Depositions are taken in the presence of a court reporter, and the court reporter records the testimony. After the deposition, the attorneys for the parties received a typed transcript that contains all the questions that were asked by the attorneys, as well as the answers given by the deponent. The purpose of taking depositions is to ensure that the attorneys for the parties have a full and complete understanding of the events giving rise to the lawsuit, as well as an understanding of the testimony that they can expect to hear from witnesses at trial. Another reason an attorney might want to get deposition testimony is that it allows the attorneys to better prepare for trial and to develop a strategy for presenting the case to a judge or a jury. At trial, the deposition testimony can be used in several ways. First, if a witness on the stand deviates from the deposition testimony, an attorney can use the deposition to impeach the witness. Also, if a witness forgets certain facts or events, the deposition can be used to refresh the witness's recollection. Finally, in some instances when a witness simply cannot attend trial, the trial judge has the authority to allow the deposition testimony to be read to the jury. If you are a party to a lawsuit and are requested to give deposition testimony, your attorney will likely spend a significant amount of time preparing you for the deposition process to put you at ease and make you feel comfortable. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. This is our final segment, less than 7 minutes remaining in the show. So if you want to take advantage of the opportunity to speak with some actual attorneys from Hollis Wright, here's what you need to know. The number to know is 844-529-8255 or 205-324-3600. You'll also see that information at the bottom of your screen. You can call, text, or email. Josh?
One of the questions I have is, if you have a corporate structure, whether it's a partnership or a sole proprietorship or a corporation, can you buy real estate through that entity and own it as part of the assets of the entity? And if so, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I read a recent study that said that 80% of new mortgages are actually taken out by LLCs. And so sometimes it's just a business investment. Sometimes a business is created for the sole purpose of being a real estate investing business. So the two main questions are you going to be an investor or are you going to be a trader? If you're a trader, you're mainly looking to buy a place, fix it up, flip it. You're a flipper. And we all see those shows, Flip or Flop, that type of thing. If you're an investor, you're looking to buy a place, maybe fix it up a little bit, have tenants, wait till the market increases, sell it later. That's more of an investment. So there's a lot of businesses being created nowadays for that sole purpose, to do that type of thing.
And it's another thing that comes up a lot, David, is circumstances where you're purchasing a real estate venture in order to have your firm, for example, housed in that. And we ran into that in our law firm, where we purchased a building downtown in order to rent it back to our business. And there is corporate formality involved in that to make sure your partners are involved and they have a role in it and they have decision authority over some of the things that happen. So you got to be careful how you structure that. And that kind of leads me to one of the other things that I mentioned in our last break, and that is just kind of in general, is an operating agreement between business owners important when you're starting a business and maybe supplementing or amending that as things change in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is one of the few things that you absolutely have to do on the initial checklist of starting a business: the EIN, the business name, and the operating agreement. So on the front end, you may be small, you may have 1-2 partners, and it may grow. And so, like you said, it's important on the front end to state in the operating agreement who's responsible for what, whose duties are what, who's profiting in what way. And then as you build, as you grow, hopefully, and you take on new partners or sort of sub-partners, you want to continue to add addendums to that operating agreement so you make sure everybody knows what their roles are, what they're getting from the business, what they're responsible for and not, to protect yourselves throughout, the duration of your business.
Well, and having fair expectations about what everybody's responsibility is critically important to make sure you avoid conflict, because there's going to be a conflict in businesses. That's just part of running a business. But what makes a successful business compared to an average business is successful businesses are able to work their way through conflict respectfully with one another, find common ground among owners and leaders and partners, and rock forward, because at the end of the day, the goal is for the entity to be successful. For that to happen, you've got to have some defined structure internally that allows you to know what your responsibilities are, what you can and cannot do, and what is allowed with your partners.
I'm curious from the both of you, what are the most common mistakes you see business owners make around this topic of conversation here? And Josh, you've run a business now for 20 years.
Yeah, Josh,
Kayla, you're right in the middle of it. So what are the most common mistakes you see folks make?
Well, I'll go first, and I'll just tell you, I have a principle that I really believe in, and I think I learned it from my dad, which is regardless of what your equity ownership is in the entity that you are involved in, collective decision-making is a better leadership approach than totalitarian leadership. Totalitarian leadership, where one person dictates what's going to happen under all circumstances, is, in my personal assessment, not a very effective way to keep partners long term. And I use partners broadly, keep owners long term. If you are collectively making a decision, it forces you to have people around you that are smarter than you. That's what you want to surround yourself with, that give you alternative thoughts and theories and concepts that may change your vision and your plan. And it also ensures that people recognize that they're a part of this thing, and they have an ownership interest in it, and they have a say. And so collective decision making, I think, is more important than one person doing it.
And I would say preventative planning. There are so many, particularly small business owners, who start a business with maybe a very low capital coming in. It's sort of a startup, as you would say. And they don't have a lot of money, and so they don't put enough money towards, like I said, attorneys, accountants, to help them prevent themselves from tax and liability issues that can really, destroy your business.
Just a minute and a half remaining, but real quickly from the both of you, just a final thought. Kayla, if you would, go first.
I would just say thank you so much for having me for my 5th time. I'm very honored and humbled, as always, to be here with you guys. I'm at Massey Stutzer in Nichols now. We're in Trustville, right off Highway 11. It'd be easier for me to tell you guys what we don't do versus what we do, and that's really, we don't do bankruptcy, and we don't do like intellectual property, but anything else, come in the door, we would love to help you out. So.
Yeah, the other thing is, I think Kayla's laid out a plan that if you want to start a business, you've got to dot the I's and cross the T's on the front end to make sure that your business can be successful. If you don't, you can run into significant heartache that really slows and cogs the wheel down, if you will, of a successful business. And so what you want to do is you want to go to someone like Kayla. There's a reason she's been on the show 5 times, not just because she used to clerk with us, but because she's educated and smart, and she pays attention to her craft and learns changes in the law and learns the process of what to do to be successful. And she's really smart in this area, and her firm is too. So if you forget about their firm, come to us and we'll get you to them 100%. So Kayla, thanks for being on.
Appreciate you
Good job.
being with us. Great show tonight. Thanks to you guys, and thanks to you all as well. We appreciate it as always. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.